Welcome to From Home to Care Home, preparing and adjusting to the new environment. This session is for caregivers who are preparing to move a family member into long-term care, or those who have recently moved a family member into long-term care and are looking for information on how to ease the period of adjustment. Today, we are going to talk about what adjusting to the move might look like for you and the person living with dementia, including how can you prepare for the move to ease the adjustment period and strategies for responding to when someone says, I want to go home. We'll also touch on how to address any concerns that may arise with the person's care and how to develop effective relationships with the care team and continue your role as the lead in the person's care. A move into care is a big decision. It can help to talk about the move with trusted family and friends who understand and support you. People who have some understanding around the dementia journey and the responsibilities of caregiving. Ideally, the person living with dementia will be part of this discussion. However, admission to a care home often occurs in the late stages of dementia when insight, understanding, and judgment are impaired. A move into a care home may not make sense or seem appropriate to the person living with dementia, or they may comprehend the need and agree to the move, but find the conversation, decision-making, and planning quite overwhelming. This is when the caregiver has to make some difficult decisions around what to say, when to say it, and how to make the move as stress-free as possible. When it's time to make these decisions, consider contacting our First Link Dementia Helpline for creative ideas around communication and emotional support. It is normal for caregivers to experience a wide range of emotions regarding a move into long-term care. When you think of the transition, whether that be an upcoming move or for those here today who have already moved their family member into long-term care, what is one word that you would use to describe how you feel about the decision? Take a moment to think about this for you. Some of the common feelings that get stirred up for caregivers include sadness or grief, guilt, relief because the responsibility of providing care is no longer solely on your shoulders, anger, loneliness. You miss having the person at home. Your feelings might be mixed. You may feel sadness and relief at the same time, or guilt for that relief. If the person with the dementia adjusts well, you may be feeling happy, but also rejected if the person seems more content in the care home than they were at home with you. It may be confusing, but it is also common for caregivers to have conflicting feelings happening at the same time. There are likely to be good days and bad days, just like the person in care will have good days and bad days. The process of adjusting to the new normal is often not linear, but more ups and downs with gradual improvement over time. Once you decide that it's time for a move into long-term care, it can be helpful to open up with family members and those involved in the decision-making about the need for a move. Those who are less involved in the person's day-to-day care may not appreciate the need for this transition. It is also important to talk about care decisions so you are able to communicate both your and the person's wishes to the care team and to prepare yourself to sign documentation on healthcare decisions. For example, what level of intervention you would want if the person's heart was to stop. Ask the care home what you can do to prepare for the move, such as labeling the person's clothing or identifying furnishings and decor to help make the new environment more comfortable and familiar. Identifying key items to bring in advance makes it easier to pack in short notice. We have a great handout in our list of resources called What to Bring to help you with these decisions. If possible, set up the room prior to bringing the person. If circumstances at the care home prohibit this, take photos of the person's room at the home to share with the care team so they can see where to best position furnishings or special objects to make the room more comfortable for the person. Speak with the care home about a plan for moving day. Identify the contact person. Confirm where to meet them. Note the process and schedule for moving day and the paperwork that needs to be completed. Many people are surprised about the amount of paperwork required on and before moving day. Connect with the care team in advance of the move to ensure the care home has everything they need for consent to move the person into care. Several other important documents need to be signed around healthcare, emergency interventions, finances, and funeral arrangements, and consent. If you are the person completing the paperwork, who will accompany and reassure the person living with dementia? Who will be in the room with them while you talk to the nurse or sign the documents? And remember, moving during COVID-19 or other community issues can be a little unpredictable. Things can change fast. Call the day of the move and confirm it's business as usual in the facility. Of course, a major part of moving day is knowing when and how to leave. Once the formalities are complete, how do you say goodbye? Is there a specific staff member who can support the person during their first day? Can you stay for lunch and then leave? And when you leave, who will spend time with the person living with dementia? Who will keep them company and provide reassurance? So not only do you need a plan for arrival, unpacking, and paperwork, you also need a plan for leaving. On moving day, speak gently and directly to the person about where they are going and try to emphasize the positive. Keep your explanations simple and prepare yourself for a range of reactions. You might say something like, I found a great place where you'll be safe and can enjoy your favorite activities. They even have live music sometimes. If the person seems anxious or afraid, offer reassurance and let them know you are there to help. If the person becomes agitated or upset, say and do what you feel is best to provide comfort in the moment. If possible, try to arrange a time for arrival when the person is typically at their best. Also consider who is the person, who will help the transition and move that day. Sometimes the primary caregiver is not the best fit for the job. And it can be two people, one person to accompany and support the person living with dementia, and another person to focus on other responsibilities. Moving day is an emotional time, and if you've been the primary caregiver for the person, it may be too difficult for you to be the one to do the transition. People living with dementia can pick up on our emotions and may sense the grief or worry that you're feeling, which can make it that much harder for them. It does not have to be you. If it is you, think of who can support you on the day of the move. Some caregivers find it helpful to meet up with a friend after to talk about how they're feeling, while others may want to go home and just be alone. There is no right or wrong way to respond to this difficult decision you've made. Think about what support might look like for you on that day, and include this in your planning. For more information and strategies on preparing for a move, we have included a handout of information and a checklist of items to bring the day of the help in the helpful resources document linked below this video. Following the move, the person living with dementia may experience an increase in disorientation. It's a new environment that is unfamiliar, and this may cause the person to feel fearful, lost, even angry at the situation. They may ask to go home frequently when they see you. Remember that it can take time to settle for anyone moving into a new environment, particularly if you have a brain disease that is making it challenging to remember where you are and understand why you are there. Keep in mind that the transition may be harder for you than it is for the person with dementia. You are both adjusting, For some people, this may take weeks or even months, and some days will naturally be better than others. Allow the person time to settle. If you visit every day during lunchtime, it may not allow the person time to get to know other residents and staff, and that can add to it never feeling like they're home. There is a balance that takes time, and visiting is a very personal choice. How often you visit and how long you stay is entirely up to you. Listen to your instincts and what works best for your family. Of course, this looks a bit different now with COVID-19, and visiting protocol will vary amongst care homes. Some staff may recommend not visiting for the first few weeks to allow the person time to settle in, while other care homes may leave this up to your discretion. Confirm with the care home before the move if they have a policy or recommendation around visitation following admission. There are many strategies that staff can use to help a person feel more settled, like focusing on being in the moment and engaging the person with an activity they really enjoy doing. These may be short-term solutions, but they will bring some quality of life back to the person, even if they find it very difficult to adjust. It's also important to note that some people may never feel settled in their new living situation. Some people need more time, some need less. Everyone is different. Try your best to be patient. Sometimes caregivers are quite surprised by how well the person adjusts. One caregiver shared with us that her mom thought she was living on a cruise ship. Wonderful! Cruise ships are generally happy places where you want to be, and there are a few similarities between cruise ships or resorts that might appeal to the person, such as tea always being available, the activities, the people, the dining room, etc. Go with it and validate this positive feeling for the person. It's okay that they're on a cruise ship. Of course, you may not hear positive comments from your family member, but hear more complaints. It's important to both validate those comments and also take the time to consult with staff who provide regular care. The nurse or recreational therapist might be able to provide information about daily routines, mood, and social engagement. Some people even see an improvement in the person's well-being with the added supports and 24-hour care. There's now a whole team of people to care for the person. For example, having someone available to direct them back to bed at night, having nurses monitor their medication to control their pain, dietitians to monitor their nutrition, recreational activities for stimulation. With a good care team, many people can adjust quite well. It might even be tempting to think they're doing better. I can bring them back home now. But try to consider all of the care provided by the team, and if that is really feasible to provide that same level of care in the home. And try to remember the reasons why you made the difficult decision to transition the person into care in the first place. It is common after a person moves into long-term care, and even at times long after, for the person with dementia to say, "I want to go home." This is tricky because home can mean many things to a person. It may not be the literal home they have moved from, but rather a feeling of comfort, safety, familiarity, or a feeling of connection to others. It may even mean a different room in the building. Home is not always what we think it is. If we consider home as an emotional state, a place of safety, comfort, and familiarity, we have some creative options to help. First of all, we can provide validation, then ask some questions. For example, we might respond, "Yes, it would be great to go home now. What will we do when we get there? Who will we see?" A conversation around home can be happy and reassuring. Talking about home and all the happy times there, the memories and people we have loved, can be a powerful form of connection and reassurance. It is important to focus on the emotions behind the words. What does the person really want? Where is home for them? Talking about this can bring insight into what they're feeling and help you figure out how best to respond in the moment. Above all, avoid arguing. Reasoning and logic typically does not work when someone has a brain disease. So saying things like you are home and this is your home can just upset the person, who may then feel like you aren't listening to them or that you don't care, and they may accuse you of putting them in there. Instead, a gentler approach using validation can help. For example, you may calmly say something like, "I'll talk to the doctor for you about this." Or, "Of course you want to go home. I would love it if you could come home with me. The doctor said you need to stay here a few more days until your knee gets better. Just a few more days." And this could be a medical reason that the person can identify with. Now you might be saying a few more days for years. But when you respond to the emotional reality of the person rather than your own reality, you can stop becoming that enemy who is keeping them in this new place, and your relationship can begin to improve. Being the ally. Remember that the goal is to help reduce the person's anxiety or fear so that they can feel safe and comfortable where they are. After validating how the person feels, gently redirect their attention to something else. For example, you might ask them to tell you about their home and then guide the conversation to a neutral topic. Asking about their home further validates their feelings and may encourage them to share positive memories. You might say something like, "What is your favorite room in the house? What makes the kitchen your favorite room?" In the list of helpful resources, we've included a link to a list of conversation starters that may be helpful for redirecting conversations. And sometimes, despite all your best efforts, the person will not let it go. If this happens, you may need to go further into their reality. For example, getting them dressed for outside, but instead of heading to the car, you may go to the courtyard for a walk. The change of scenery may be enough to help calm that person and provide you with additional opportunities to redirect their focus. Reassure the person and try your best to provide positive language when responding. For example, rather than saying goodbye when you leave, which could generate uncertainty over when you'll be back, you could say, "I'll be back to see you soon." Or, "I need to go prepare dinner. I'd better go. See you tomorrow." One of the biggest adjustments you will have to make when a person moves into long-term care is your caregiver role. Recognize that good care may look different than it does at home. You're now sharing the responsibilities of care with others, and there will be differences between the caregiving routine that you had at home and the routine within the care home. Try to keep an open mind as much as possible, and remember that staff are doing their best to care for many individuals with many different levels of need. And this can change from day to day, hour to hour, and even minute to minute. For example, if a resident is tired or not feeling well one day, they may resist their bath at the time it is scheduled, and it may make more sense for a staff to attempt the bath on another day when the person is feeling better. Or, in the event of a fall at the care home, your family member may have to wait a little longer while staff attend to the person who fell. So keep in mind that routines will look different, and there will be fluctuations from time to time. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it is not good quality care. If possible, ask where you can volunteer or help. Getting to know the care team and the staff can go a long way in understanding why things are done in a certain way. While it is important to let the care team know what is important to the person living with dementia, it is also important to let them know what is important to you as a family member. For example, if you're used to seeing your wife with her hair a certain way, it may be important for you to not see her with disheveled hair. Think about what will make you, as the caregiver, feel at peace with your family member being in care, and share this information with the care team. If something is not being done as you think it should, then whenever possible, ask questions first rather than jumping to conclusions. And if you do have concerns about the care being received, discuss them with the staff on duty or the director of care. Let's watch a short video now. The Alzheimer's Society of BC produced this short video in collaboration with Safe Care BC in 2019 to show how family members and care providers can work together to provide good quality care, person-centered care, for the people living with dementia. The aim of the video is to increase understanding between the two groups.
So initially, at the beginning, I really didn't know how to get help. I didn't have anybody to turn to.
The recommendation was made that she go into full-time residential care.
I had to hold loosely in my hands her care.
What drew me to this career is the passion, the love.
There's always a challenge. Every day I'm challenged to be the very best that I can possibly be to help them get through their day. And daily I'm challenged with having to decipher their needs from their emotions. And I love them dearly, but I can never love them like a family member. And I will never care for them as much as a family member feels they need to be cared for.
The thing with people with Alzheimer's or with any of the dementias is that they can't speak up for themselves. And we have to take on that role of being the voice for them. Let's work together. Let's make this work, because in my mind, it's not about me, it's not about them, it's about my wife. That's the only one that counts. Like all relationships, you have to sit down with the staff and say, first of all, something's bothering me, and secondly, how do we resolve it? And I don't think you can be defensive.
The person is not really up for the assistance that I'm trying to offer, but that leaves the poor loved one looking at us like, wait a second, I need you to care for my loved one. That's why you're here. And so at that point, it becomes an education moment. We are going to assist the person, but we're going to do it as a team. But if we don't explain that to our poor family members, they're left thinking, well, what kind of place is this? We lean on our families. We lean on our families so very much.
I made it important for me that I would get to know every person's name who was looking after my wife, and also hear their story, because I cared about them and their hearts, not just their job that they had to do. I wrote a manual that it talked about us falling in love, getting married. It talked about our family. It also talked about the food she liked, what she didn't like. I was really surprised that the entire staff at that point had actually read the manual. One day, I walked into my wife's room and the care aide was dancing with my wife. Because this care aide had read the manual, knew that she taught dance. It was beautiful. I almost wept. The look of ecstasy on my wife's face is just, it was unspeakably beautiful.
What did you think? Does this help you understand more about the caregiving role from both a family member and a staff member perspective? Helping staff get to know the person with dementia can play a vital role in easing the transition. You know the person best. It can help staff provide more person-centered care when they understand more about who the person is, what is important to them, what calms them, and what might trigger a behavioral response. For example, if they like cream in their coffee, they might get upset if it's missing. Think about what are the person's likes and dislikes. What was their occupation in their earlier years? Did they have any hobbies that were meaningful to them? Do they have a lifelong habit or key routines that should be maintained? For example, have they always been an early riser? The care team may be able to plan their care schedule with respect to the person's preferences. Care homes are often home to people with a variety of different cultures. So it's important to ensure that the staff understand the person's cultural background and practices so they can be respectful of them. For example, does the person prefer to be addressed more formally or informally? Do they have a nickname they prefer to use? Also be aware that there is a lot of paperwork with admission to long-term care. A nurse will often interview the family and person with dementia about some of these things so they can create a good care plan. Or you might be asked to fill out a document to capture this information. You can start to compile a list of things that are important to and important for the person living with dementia at any time. So when they are ready to move in, the list is ready to go. The Society has an All About Me booklet where you can record this and provide it to the care team. The link is included in the Helpful Resources document. A brief overview of what's important can also be helpful since the staff may not have a lot of time to read something too extensive. For example, a one-page poster with bullet points and photos to put on the person's wall for the care team to see when they first enter the person's room, or a picture frame with multiple photos and labels of family members and close friends. This provides another way for staff to make conversation and connect with the person. Advocacy is also an important part of accessing services for a person living with dementia, and you may find a need to advocate to ensure that you receive the care and support that both you and the person living with dementia need. You still remain the lead in the care team, and your voice is important. If you are dissatisfied or concerned about something to do with the family member's care, then your first step would be to speak to the person who provided the service or a manager. Generally, complaints are best addressed and resolved at the time and place they occur. And you may gain a greater understanding of why the issue occurred that you may not have had otherwise. Record a clear description of what happened, where it happened, and the names of any staff you have spoken with about the issue, when you speak to them, and what their responses were. It may also help to make note of what the outcome or resolution is that you want to see. The Society offers a number of advocacy fact sheets outlining strategies and considerations to help you build an effective relationship with the care team. If, after raising the issue, the concern is not addressed or you're not satisfied with the outcome, then ask to speak to the Director of Care. If you're not comfortable speaking with the Director of Care about this issue, or you speak with the Director of Care and the resolution is not met, then you have the option of contacting the Patient Care Quality Office of your local health authority. If a resolution is still not met after this, then you can contact Patient Care Quality Review Board. You can find the links and contact information for the Patient Care Quality Offices and the advocacy fact sheets in the list of helpful resources linked below this video. Remember that moving your family member into care does not mean that your role as a caregiver is any less important than before. Someone once told us, "I'm still steering the ship. I just need more crew." And as we've learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, caregivers are more than visitors. Some caregivers continue to provide a great deal of care to the person long after the move, such as meal assistance, grooming, mobility assistance, and so on. Because of this, even after the person moves into care, you are still susceptible to caregiver stress and burnout. So it is important to assess what you want your role as a caregiver to look like within the context of what is reasonable for you. And this will vary from person to person. Again, there is no right or wrong way to provide care after a move, and what works for one family may not work for another. You may find that you have a different focus now and spend more time connecting with the person than you did before the move. Understand that it is normal for caregivers to experience a wide range of emotions once the person has moved into care. Remember that this is a period of adjustment for both of you, and it will take time to figure out a new routine. You may find it helpful to connect with others who are also supporting a person with dementia in care. This can be through a friend, family, or a caregiver support group. We currently have monthly virtual caregiver support groups specifically for caregivers of a person living with dementia in care. Adjusting to long-term care can be a challenging, confusing time for both of you. And at the end of this presentation, you may still have questions and a lot of emotions. And that is precisely what our First Link Dementia Helpline is here for. Our staff are a great resource to strategize with, to help answer some questions, and just even for those times when you need to talk to somebody else who can understand the dementia journey. The Dementia Helpline support is available in BC in Punjabi, Hindi, Urdu, Cantonese, and Mandarin, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. The Dementia Helpline support in English is available in BC Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And in the Yukon, the English line is available Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain Time.